Jeff, Northwestern was a team that, they struggled a little bit last year, only won 8 games, but, they're scoring pretty well these first 2 games. What kind of signs of growth are you seeing from that program?
Well, I saw them, I watched them pretty often, and I saw it even in the midst of them losing. I saw them getting better. And their guys have matured. They've gotten a little bit older. Their experience from last year, they were close in a lot of those games, had leads in a lot of them. Just a situation where you have so much youth and you just don't know how to win. In these first 2 games, they've been outstanding, especially on the offensive side of the ball, averaging over 100 points a game. Their percentages, it seems like they're trying to play faster. Certainly the kid Audij, who set out last year, has really provided a spark for him. I'm a big fan of Kopp. I think that he is a really outstanding player. He reminds me of a kid that a guy that I competed against when I was in college, a guy by the name of Matt Harpering that played at Georgia Tech. He ended up being a longtime pro. He reminds me of that. Bowie has certainly gotten better. Last year, they had 14 points in the second half against us and played really well, especially after battling some injuries. And then Nance has improved. He's really, really talented. Barron. So they're well coached. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They're playing with a lot of joy. And, for us, it's just everything's going to be different. It's the first time on the road. It's for a lot of us, it's the first time out of Pittsburgh. I know for me, this will be my first time out of Pittsburgh since July. And so it's going to be interesting to travel, with COVID and everything that's going on there. But they seem to be a much improved team. I know Chris really loves his team.
Coach, can you talk about how John Hughley has played so far and what he can do to improve to become a key part of this offense?
Yeah, he's done some good things, but we need him to be better. He has to understand how hard you have to work every day, the discipline that it takes to be a really good player at this level every day, the mindset that you have to have every day, showing up, every day with all of those things intact and competing every day. Again, it's difficult for a freshman. And I would imagine this year is maybe the most difficult year for any freshman, maybe ever, because of the things that are going on in the world. But he's a good player. He's talented, and we need him to be good for us.
With Drexel and Northern Illinois, we had talked a lot about ball screen defense, and kind of trying to counter some of the things they do with those. What kind of challenges and wrinkles does Northwestern present that you guys have to counter defensively?
Well, the very first thing is that we have to get back in transition. When you're playing a team that their last 3 halves, they've scored 50 points in each half. The second half of their first game against Pine Bluff, and then both halves against Chicago State. And so they're really scoring fast off of makes and misses. And so that's the very first thing. And then they're making 12.5 threes a game and shooting a good percentage. So we're going to have to get the shooters. And they can put a group on the floor if they continue to start the way they've started. All 5 guys can shoot the basketball. And so that provides a different type of challenge than we've had so far this year. We haven't played against a 5-man, so to speak, or a guy that's at that spot. May not necessarily be a 5-man, but they can shoot the basketball. Nance can. And so that provides us with a little bit of a different look. And so we have to make our adjustments. We have to try to disrupt them as much as we can. Contest shots, we have to rebound the basketball, and then we have to be able to execute on the offensive end.
Coach, during this, kind of holiday season time where you guys got to dedicate a lot of time to basketball when you would otherwise be at home spending time with family or students would be on a break, is that difficult, as both a player like you were or as a coach like you are now? Is that difficult?
It's a really interesting question. And to be quite frank with you, it's something that I'm really struggling with as a coach of what's the best thing to do for our team, for my guys. I'm not even thinking about the program right now for my guys. You know, we have this ACC Rover game on December 22nd. And, you know, the way it is right now, we play December 29th. And, you know, the NCAA mandates that you have to give guys 3 days off. But there are a lot of programs that are not sending their guys, that are not allowing their guys to go home for Christmas. And, you know, for me, I'm really struggling with that because of all the years that a kid should be with his family, 2020 is at the very, very top of that. And so, you know, for me, I'm trying to figure out what's the best thing for my guys. You know, the NCAA's rule is that during those 3 days, you can't do anything with them. Like we, the coaches, we can't work with them. We can't practice. The only thing that you can open up the gym, but no coach can be there. Strength coach can't work with them. They can go to the weight room, but a strength coach can't work with them. And what they've done is that they've adjusted where you can do some stuff, team building stuff. But what the hell can you do during a pandemic? You can't go to a movie theater. You can't go to a restaurant. And so it's something that I just, you know, right now, you know, it's interesting to me. If you look at the numbers back in March when the season was canceled, the numbers are worse right now than they were back in March. And so, you know, you would think a little bit, perhaps, whoever, and I don't know who the leadership is. I have no idea, but maybe they would think about a little bit of a pause, I would think, just so, you know, kids can be with their families, you know, for Christmas. Coaches can be with their families. But most importantly, what's going on in our country right now, as far as these numbers, is staggering. And, you know, we can get on a plane to go to Evanston, Illinois. We can get on a plane to go to Miami. You know, we can get on a plane to go to Durham right after Christmas. None of those places are going to have fans, which means their families aren't going to be able to be there. Their families can't come to the hotel, but they can't go home for Christmas. There's something that just seems not right about that. And so I have to make a decision of what I think is best for my guys. And I'll do that here shortly as I gather more information. But I'm really glad you asked that question because I've been struggling with it, to be honest with you.
Jeff, do you think it might have been wise to delay the season until after the holidays, like January sometime?
If you look at the numbers, yes. You know, it's one of the things I think that's come about, you know, with all of this since everything happened in March when the season was canceled. You know, I don't think anyone can say anymore that these young men are amateurs. Like that's out the window because they're not. They absolutely aren't. And I'm proud of them, all of them around the country. I'm proud of every young man, young woman that's out there laying it on the line, that's competing. You know, especially in men's basketball, women's basketball, and football, because they're the ones where, you know, there's more attention. And that's why I think it's shameful. And I don't know, because I'm off of everything now, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's being said, but I think it's shameful, you know, if stuff is being negatively said or written about a kid. I saw something the other day where Kentucky's struggling. Well, the world's struggling. I mean, you don't know what these kids are going through. I know what my guys are going through. I know how hard this is for them. You have families struggling back at home. You have them worrying about, you know, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or a family member and the things that they're going through. And yet, you know, they're here, they're in school, they're going through finals. They're practicing, they're going out and competing. Now we're getting ready to start traveling. So I think it would have been wise, but, you know, one of the things that, you know, Coach K used to say this when I worked there all the time, one of the biggest problems in our sport is that we have no leadership. So you don't know where to turn to get answers or who's looking out for truly the best interest of the young men and women that are out there competing.
As a coach, Chef, I figured that you probably always kind of emphasize to your guys that your door's open, that you're always there for them, and always always lending a willing ear to them. Given some of these struggles here, and given some of what's going on, how much more do you emphasize that?
I mean, it's something I've always emphasized. I've been very fortunate from the time I was a young player to have really good relationships with my coaches. Started with my high school coach, obviously my college coach, and some of the assistants that were at Duke when I played there. And it's something, I saw the impact that my dad had on the young people that he coached. And so when I got in this business, that's really the main reason, was to try to help them get better, both on the court and as young men growing to become men. My door is always open. My house is always open. I'm a phone call away. Now I'm a FaceTime away. Whatever they need, if they need to talk, if they need to get away, if they need to escape, I feel for these young people. Again, I've said this, I may have said this to you guys. I see what it's doing to my 13, 11, and 8-year-old. I see what it's doing every day at home. I see what, distance learning is doing. I see what not being able to be with their friends. I see what being cooped up in a house all day. I see what is happening. And, these guys, I'm talking about my guys now, like they're going through the same thing, except they're away from their families. My kids have me and my wife every day. Now they may want to get away from us, or us. We may want to get away from them. But they do have us. These kids are away and they're out and they're laying on the line to entertain people. It just, I don't know, something doesn't feel right about it right now. Again, and my thing is, like, the numbers were what they were back in March. I mean, I look at it every day, man. It seems like every day it's getting worse. So I don't know why you cancel it in March, but you say it's okay to do it right now. Well, what do I know? I'm no expert in anything.
Coach, how confident are you guys how confident are you that you'll be able to play a full season, or the full season that you guys have planned, without a major interruption?
I mean, we're hopeful, but it seems inevitable that there's going to be disruption. I mean, if you look around the country, there's disruption in college basketball. I mean, it seems like it's happening all the time. For us, it's going to be interesting because now we're getting ready to introduce travel. And so that's something that we have not done, we've not experienced. Our people here have done an outstanding job, and it's been led by Jennifer Brown, our trainer. And we've been fortunate that once we've started practice, knock on wood, that we have not had any interruption. And hopefully that's something that continues. I mean, when we test, I'm holding my breath, until I hear the results. And then you're able to exhale for a little bit and then to, try to get back to work.
Jeff, there was a moment in the game, I think Femi was playing a segment, and when he came off the court, it seemed like everyone was up, the coaches, the players, everyone was kind of into what he did. What kind of stood out about that performance? Didn't really show up in the box score, but what did he do right that kind of got everyone's attention?
Well, he played with great energy. He competed. He ran our team. He was vocal on the court. And that's what you need from that position. That of all the positions in college basketball, the point guard position has to be the one that's most aligned with the coach, and understanding and being able to feel what the team needs. Femi is a talented young kid, but he's been through a lot in a very, very short period of time, on top of dealing with, what's going on in the country right now with COVID-19. And we need his energy. We need that. And I think that was what the guys were saying. Like, they acknowledged that those minutes that he gave us were really, really good minutes.
Jeff, there was a report I think last week about how the basketball oversight committee is expected to recommend that the NCAA approve all transfer waivers. I was curious, as a coach, what you've heard along those lines, what your understanding of the situation is, and obviously given Nike's situation, how that might impact you guys.
Yeah, I heard about this a while ago. There was a coach, I think I'm almost certain it was Chris Holtman from Ohio State, called me about Nike's situation. He had a kid at Buck that transferred there from Bucknell whose waiver was denied, and I think they were getting ready to go through an appeal. And he wanted to call and talk about kind of what our situation was and some of the things that we did. And he mentioned then that he's a part of the NABC committee, and this is something that had come up. And I actually wrote a letter to the NABC, to Craig Robinson and to Troy Hilton in support of transfers, especially this year, all of them being eligible to play immediately. When you look at it, I just think it's the right thing to do. It's going to happen in January. It's coming. They're going to change the rule, which means that the rule that's in play is not a good rule. You don't change it normally unless you think it's not good or not up to date. They've given all the kids an opportunity to have an extra year. But most importantly, just with what's going on, I just think it just makes sense, to do it. You want to try to have a full season and play as many games as you can. And I think one of the ways to help that is to be able to have everyone able to play. What happens if guys go down, and with contact tracing, you lose guys. You look at what's happened at Syracuse. It looks like with contact tracing, they're missing some guys, and some teams are shut down. And so I just think it's, even if you didn't have, it just makes sense, but especially this year. But we'll see.
If we've talked to you about, I don't know if we've asked you about this or talked to you about this, Jeff, but how has Nike been kind of handling all this? It's got to be kind of an awkward, difficult spot for him, especially with everything else going on. Has he, he's got a young kid. How has he been handling this kind of limbo or purgatory? He's been incredibly mature about it. Maybe more mature than his coach, his head coach. He really, really wants to play. It's been very difficult, especially the first two games. I know when the first three games, I should say, I don't know the last time he's not played and just had to sit on the sidelines. But he's been outstanding in practice with trying to help us get better, with pushing guys, with competing, and hopeful that an opportunity comes for him to be cleared to play.
Coach, going back to Northwestern, with your history with Coach Collins, is there a disadvantage or advantage with coaching against a coach you know so well and their tendencies that well?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's an advantage or disadvantage. I mean, I don't like it, to be honest with you. We did it last year. It's difficult from the standpoint, he's a very, very, very close friend of mine. Our families are really close. And there is a lot of history. He and I went through some amazing things together when we were teammates. And we went through success, but we also went through difficulty, and we overcame it together. And it's something that's bonded us since I entered college as a freshman and he was a sophomore. And, we talk just about every day or every other day. And so it is something that's difficult. But, the one thing I found last year when we played during those 40 minutes, I didn't look down there. He didn't look down at me. We just coached our teams. And I'm assuming it'll be the same thing on Wednesday.
Jeff, you got a young bunch of guys, and you've seen them deal with a loss and deal with a strong win this past week. All during, like you're talking about, the crazy situation of COVID. How have you seen them respond in comparison? You talked about how this was a hard week of practice after St. Francis, but now you're leading into your first game against a Power 5 opponent after a confident win.
Yeah. Our guys have been great all year. I mean, they really, really have. And I'm proud of them for how they've handled everything. I don't know if I could have done it as well as they have when I was 18 years old. I cannot begin to imagine my college experience being like these young people today. And I commend them. I do. I commend them for showing up every day, for, doing everything they can to have a positive attitude, to trying to get better, to having the desire to get better, to dealing with all of the protocols and all these things. You know, we were off yesterday. We got back. We got after it today. We had a good day, you know, pretty good day of practice today. You know, normally after a day off, you know, when you come back, it's kind of hit or miss sometimes. We're still, you know, have some guys finishing up some work, and so we're dealing with that too. And so, but I'm proud of how they've handled everything. I really and truly am.